At the funeral, I stood to say a few words about my grandfather. My uncle interrupted me and said, "You barely knew him. Sit down." Everyone just looked away. I sat down and bit my tongue while he talked about family loyalty. Afterward, I found out they'd excluded me from the will because I wasn't really blood. My mom said, "It's just how things work. Don't make a scene." I moved on. Until 6 months later, when that same uncle showed up at my door with papers and said, "You're the only one he trusted with the land titles. We need your signature." Last year, my grandfather passed away. I wasn't expecting a call about it, honestly. We hadn't talked in almost 10 years. Still, I got the call from my aunt. She said the funeral was happening in Kerrville, Texas. I live in Austin now, so I told her I'd drive down. My dad, Grandpa's son, died in a car crash when I was 8. After that, things changed. My mom didn't visit the family much. I guess she was grieving in her own way, or maybe she just didn't want to deal with Grandpa anymore. I only saw him a handful of times after that, and by the time I was in college, he was basically a stranger. But I still remembered things. Little things. Like how he smelled like tobacco and cedar, or how he used to let me sit in his lap while he carved wood. At the funeral, everyone was dressed in black except for my Uncle Rick, who wore jeans and cowboy boots like he was just stopping by before heading to a rodeo. I didn't want to say anything during the service. I really didn't. But when the pastor asked if anyone had words to share, something pulled me out of my seat. I started talking about the last time I saw Grandpa, how he showed me how to bait a hook, and told me not to let anyone take what I earned. That's when Rick stood up and cut me off. Loud. Right in the middle of the service. "You barely knew him," he said. "Sit down." Everyone turned and looked. Some people stared at their shoes. Aunt Valerie looked at me with this pained expression, like she was sorry, but not sorry enough to speak up. I sat down. My hands were shaking. I didn't even finish what I wanted to say. Rick got up after and talked about family loyalty and legacy. I stayed silent. At the little gathering afterward, I stood by the drink table. Barely anyone said a word to me. I heard whispers though. Things like, "not really blood," and "out of wedlock." That one stung. I confronted my mom about it on the drive back. She just sighed. "It's just how things work," she said. "Don't make a scene." I didn't. I let it go. A couple weeks later, I found out I wasn't even mentioned in the will. No one called me about it. I saw a cousin post on Facebook about the land and the house and how Rick and Valerie were dividing everything. Grandpa had left almost 300 acres behind. It was worth a lot. And somehow, none of it came to me. I kept my mouth shut. Fast forward 6 months. There's a knock at my door. I look through the peephole. It's Rick. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got the best of me. He looked rough. Hair messy, deep bags under his eyes, smelling like sweat and cheap coffee. He handed me a folder. "We need your help," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "We?" He licked his lips, looking real uncomfortable. Turns out the land titles, Grandpa never updated them. Legally, they're still in a trust with you listed as the successor trustee. He signed it years ago. Didn't tell anyone. I stared at him. Why would he do that? "He trusted you," Rick said, like the words tasted bad in his mouth. "We just need you to sign these so we can move the land into the family trust." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "That's funny. Last time I saw you, you told me to sit down because I barely knew him." Rick didn't say anything. I looked him right in the eye. "You said I wasn't really blood." He flinched. "I don't care about the past," he said. "Just sign the damn papers." But I didn't sign. Not that day. Something felt off. If Grandpa really trusted me with the land, why hadn't anyone mentioned it before? Why was Rick crawling to me now? That night, I pulled out the folder and started reading. And that's when I realized how deep the rabbit hole went. I stayed up all night going through the papers Rick left. The trust was real. Signed and notarized 15 years ago. Grandpa set it up after my dad died. It named me, as the successor trustee of all his land, with full power over sales, leases, and management. There was no mention of Rick or Valerie anywhere in it. I called a lawyer the next day. A friend of mine from college. She looked it over and confirmed it. You legally control the land. They can't do anything without your say-so. I asked her why they would hide something like this. She said, because you're in the way. That's when I started doing some real digging. Turns out, the land wasn't just valuable. It was sitting on top of water rights and mineral rights. A company had offered Rick a lease for drilling, close to $600,000 upfront and a cut of future profits. But the deal needed the trustee's signature. That's why Rick showed up at my door like a damn stray dog. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to see what they'd do. A week passed. Then I got a call from Aunt Valerie. I heard Rick stopped by, she said in a voice that was too sweet. We just want to make sure the land stays in the family. That's what your grandfather would have wanted. I almost told her right then to go to hell, but I played it cool. What about the will? I asked. She hesitated. That was just about personal items. The land was separate. So why did everyone act like I was cut out of everything? I said. You know how it is, she said. Family politics. Family politics. Right. The next day, someone slashed my tires. Then 2 days after that, my apartment got broken into. Nothing stolen, just papers scattered. Desk drawers pulled out. My laptop was still there. So was my TV. But the folder Rick gave me. Gone. I filed a police report, but I knew it wouldn't go anywhere. That night, I drove to Kerrville. I needed to see the land for myself. When I got there, I saw a "for lease" sign with Rick's name and number on it. I stood in the dirt, looking out over the hills my grandfather used to ride through on horseback. I could still hear his voice from when I was a kid. A man protects what he's given. Don't let snakes near your boots. I pulled out my phone and called Rick. You put up a sign, I said. It's our land, he shot back. No, I said. It's mine. And you're trespassing. He cursed me out. Called me a bastard. Said I didn't deserve a damn thing. Said Grandpa only did it out of pity. You're just a footnote, he said. No one even wanted you here. I didn't hang up. I let him rant. Then I said, you should have let me speak at the funeral. And I hung up. I drove straight to the county clerk's office the next morning and started the process of putting up "no trespassing" signs and filing for an injunction. I wasn't playing nice anymore. They wanted to treat me like an outsider. Fine. I'd show them what an outsider can do when they're pushed too far. 2 weeks after I filed the injunction, I got served with papers. Rick and Valerie were suing me. Claiming fraudulent trustee designation, saying I manipulated a dying old man who barely knew me to get control of land that didn't belong to me. They even dragged my mom into it, saying she coached Grandpa into making the trust behind everyone's back. The worst part? Their lawyer filed an emergency motion to freeze any action on the land. I couldn't lease it. Couldn't sell. Couldn't even walk the property without notifying the court first. They were trying to stall me out. Burn me with legal fees. But they didn't know I'd already gone further than they had. While they were throwing mud in court, I had a forensic document examiner confirm Grandpa's signature. I got a statement from his old bank manager verifying he transferred the trust funds with full intent. And the best part? I found something they didn't know existed. In a box of Grandpa's old papers, tucked away inside his barn, which was locked, but I had the master key, I found a handwritten letter addressed to me. It was dated 6 months before he died. He wrote about how he'd watched my life from a distance. How he regretted the years we lost. He said I was the last piece of my son left, and that Rick was never supposed to get the land because, in Grandpa's words, he'd sell it for a truck and a pack of beer. The letter was signed. Dated. And I had it notarized immediately. That letter changed everything. But it also made things worse. The day after I submitted it into the court record, someone followed me home. I noticed a black pickup parked across from my apartment building 3 nights in a row. Then I got a note shoved under my door, "Drop the case. You're not welcome in Kerrville." It wasn't signed. Just bold handwriting on a folded napkin. I called the cops, but they didn't take it seriously. So I started documenting everything. I installed cameras outside my place. I made 3 copies of Grandpa's letter and mailed one to my lawyer, one to a safe deposit box, and one to myself, unopened, so I could use it as proof of receipt if things went to trial. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. My cousin Luke, Rick's son, called me out of nowhere. "I need to talk," he said. I met him at a gas station just off the highway, halfway between Kerrville and Austin. He looked tired, nervous. Said he didn't agree with what his dad was doing. "They lied to you," Luke said. "Grandpa told them years ago the land was going to you. Rick's known for a long time. He just thought he could force it after Grandpa died. He gave me copies of emails, old ones. Between Rick and a land developer. The plan was always to kick me out, fake a family agreement, and cash in fast. Luke said he couldn't stomach it anymore. He'd even recorded a phone call with Rick talking about pushing the bastard out. I had it all now. Proof of fraud. Proof of harassment. Proof of intent. The land was mine. But the war was just getting started. I took everything I had. Grandpa's letter, Luke's emails, the voice recording, the proof of the forged trust documents Rick tried to file, and I handed it over to my lawyer. She put together a countersuit so tight and so sharp it might as well have drawn blood. We filed for damages. For attempted fraud. For defamation. And for emotional distress. And I made sure it wasn't private. I leaked the voice recording to the local news station. Gave them the backstory, the lawsuit, the fake trust, and the part about how I was shoved aside at the funeral by the same man who then begged me to sign over everything 6 months later. The story went viral in the hill country. Family betrayal over 300 acres. Rick's name was all over the news. So was mine. He showed up at my door again. But this time, I had the security camera running. He didn't yell. He begged. "I'll make you a deal," he said. "Half the money from the lease. Just sign the land over." I stared at him. "You threatened me. You broke into my home. You slashed my tires." He didn't deny it. Just stood there sweating, eyes wild. "I'll go bankrupt if you don't drop this." I didn't say a word. I shut the door in his face. When we finally got to court, it wasn't even close. The judge called their lawsuit an insult to the legal system. He upheld the trust. Awarded me full control of the land, plus damages. Rick lost everything. His house. His savings. He had to pay my legal fees on top of his own. Valerie cut him off publicly, saying she had no part in Rick's schemes. Luke testified on my behalf. He lost half his family over it, but he said, "I'd rather sleep at night than be rich and rotten." The drilling company backed out after the bad press. But I didn't care. I put the land into conservation. No leases. No development. I planted trees where Rick once hung for lease signs. As for me, I moved into Grandpa's old house. But here's the truth, I wasn't perfect either. I waited too long to speak up. I let them walk over me at the funeral. I should have stood up to them years ago. Maybe then Grandpa would have known I cared sooner. But in the end, I kept my promise to him. I didn't let anyone take what I earned. And I never let snakes near my boots again.